Hello guys, TKG is here for your comfortable LostArk life. In this video, I'd like to cover one of his class engravings of the Sorceress. As the latest balance patches brought small changes of the Sorceress, so I thought it'd be great to share some of those infos for your LostArk journey. Now follow me, I'll show what you need. Let's start with the basic of this video. Class engraving I'm going to cover in this video is Igniter. As you guys already know about the Igniter Sorceress is a typical and representative of the Identity Rely classes. Almost every damage is coming from the Identity Magic Amplification. Magic Amplification decreases the cooldown of all skills 50% and increase the damage of all skills for a short period of time. Identity Magic Amplification's uptime is about 15 seconds, but most of the Sorceress skill cooldown are less than 30 seconds. So theoretically, all of the skills can be used once in amplification uptime. But gotta be honest, it is really theoretic. Due to her great damage performance with a simple mechanic, she had a great popularity among the KO players right now. After the balance patch, some or maybe huge changes and fixes on her skill circulations. First, she can now gain more identity than before. About 10% more from all skills than before. Sorceress has a cool mechanic and the interesting skill circulations, but has one problem before. Comparing to the recent identity circulation of the recent classes, I mean the Soul Eaters or maybe Breaker, Sorceress had a more painful session when filling up her identity before. Second, when using the Doomsday needs some time to make an effective hit, right? I mean, Meteor need to wait until it drops the target, but that waiting time are now reduced, or more like it was very shortened. So it almost dropped immediately to the target, and sometimes you might miss the timing of turn on the identity. Third, damage of the Backbone skill, Punishing Strike, Explosion got some boost on the damage performance. Well, actually there's not many differences on a combat stat build right now, maybe because the foundation of the Sorceress doesn't change that much. Still, she requires identity supplying, so her base build is start from the specialization, and having a variation from the critical and the swiftness is a common build of the Sorceress right now. Personally, I do recommend use the critical as a soft combat stat, but if you aren't that confident on the controls, you can use the swiftness as a variation on your Sorceress. Probably the one and only swift build of the Sorceress right now. Actually, the swift build is quite okay for the beginners, but has some tricky part for maintaining the MP during the raid, but truly it is comfortable to controls. And because of the swift, you don't need that high level of cooldown gem for the full circulation. But personally, I suggest use the swift build until you get used to it, and then change the critical build when you have to upgrade to the ancient, or simply, you'll get just used to it. Critical is a major choice for the Igniter Sorceress. Personally, critical has a high ceiling but has a lower floor on the performance. And of course you need some time to get used to it, especially no swift might makes you hard to handle on the actual raid. Currently, the Sorceress build is categorized into 3 parts, which level 3 Crystal or Adrenals, or Hallucination set, Kimblem weapon build. So overall build can be summarized like this. Small explanation, well, each build has a good and bad. Crystal build is actually the representative and the typical build of the Igniter Sorceress, but gotta be clear, for the exact performance, you need some critical synergy friends. Problem is, if you don't have it, you might see the desperate performance inside of the raid. So to offset that, you can have a flexibility by switching the gear to Hallucination, more like change it by circumstances you have. Or for the stable critical performance, level 3 Adrenals might be not the bad choice for your Sorceress. As the level 3 Adrenals guarantee the decent critical performance most of the situation, Nightmare is quite fixed to use. Or if you just want to have a stable floor, you can use the Hallucination on flexibility. Additionally, you can also use the Hallucination with the Kimblem weapon. Basically, Hallucination guarantee the high critical rate on many situations, but if the party has more than 2 critical seeders, you can use the Nightmare with flexibility. One big advantage of the Hallucination is that you really don't have to concern about that much on the Nightmare buff. Also, I searched some of the ceiling engravings, I mean 5-3+2 engravings, but I couldn't made up my mind yet for the clear explanation. And the Sorceress build is now still under research, so some of the Engraving build can be a little bit experimental. I'll leave the comment when there is more stable build that guarantee both controls and performance. And share your information if I missed something on this video. Just like the previous video, Igniter Sorceress is capable on damage performance. Personally, I think after the balance patch, she can do more than that. Also, her mechanism is quite easy to understand, so you can utilize the skill easily if you get used to it. But as you expect, the Sorceress has a slow and heavy controls during the raid, so you might little bit uncomfortable in the whole raid. And of course, she is quite low on the mobility too, so more like you need to evade the incoming attack, mostly just clicking it, or more like save the space for the emergency. And personally, I think because of that, you might be a little bit picky to survive on the high tier raid, like in the Arkan, Ivory Tower, Thermine. Of course, all of the problem will be solved when you get used to it. As you expect, as her damage performance is greatly depending on the identity itself, you need to pull up your specialization to the certain level. Well, actually there's some debate about how much you're going to build it, but personally I think you need at least more than 1600 or 1650 at least. If you have more than 1700, I think it doesn't matter that much on the most of the raid. Well, specialization to the Sorceress actually is more the better. Core mechanic of the Sorceress is identity and go. Yep, this is everything for the Sorceress. And it'll repeat. Fill up identity, pour everything, and fill up again, and again, and again, until you reach the end. Changed skill composition of the Sorceress can be summarized like this. As the Inferno got some buff on the balance patch, now the Inferno can be the backbone of the Igniter Sorceress. While actually the skill composition of the Sorceress is quite simple. All of the skill is for one thing, Arcane Eruption or Magic Amplification, identity. Utilize all skills to supply the identity except Doomsday, and then pouring everything on the identity is a core and the backbone of the Sorceress. Especially the Punishing Strike, Explosion, Doomsday is a major backbone of the Sorceress damage performance, so you need to aim carefully and then make an effective hit to boost your damage performance. Skill build of the Igniter can be summarized like this text box. Well, actually there's not many things to comment about the Sorceress skill build, because lore of the skills are quite intuitive. You can actually know the lore of the skill by just looking at it. But also you can have a variation by your gear set or for the stabilities. And personally, more wealth rune you have, you can fill up the identity faster. Well, that was pretty obvious. Well, actually the Awakening skill has no changes right now. You can just use the Enviscus Might. Well, there was small changes on the Apocalypse Skull, which control type and the area effect quite changed, but I think for now, Enviscus Might is still good to use. Identity motion, or more like identity turn on motion, can be cancelled. Before the eruption motion, using the space, you can cancel the motion, so you don't have to waste the identity by cancelling the motion. Explosion has a motion that pushes your character with the recoil. Well, that recoil can be cancelled with the consecutive Punishing Strike motion. Use the explosion as normal, but during the explosion short casting time, bring the Punishing Strike casting area in advance, and then use the Punishing Strike as soon as the explosion casting is over. Then you can cancel the explosion recoil. After the balance patch, Sorcerers have to use the skill on every cooldown. Now stacking skill Inferno can do the decent identity supply, but also can do the major role of the Nightmare buff. And once you use the ending Doomsday, you have to turn off the identity manually to continue the identity supply. So don't forget to turn off the identity manually for the continuous identity supply and combo. Skill combo of the Sorceress can be summarized like this text box. Well, actually the skill combo of the Sorceress is really a reference. Just like the Surge Deathblade, you need to use the skill with more flexibility by understanding each specialty of the skills. Rough sketch of the Sorceress skill combos can be like this, but you need to use the skill on flexibility with your own decision. So try to remember this big frame of the Sorceress and use the skill well on many different situations. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching everyone, and always thanks for your big support. Hope this video was a little helped for your LostArk journey. Hope you do well with your Sorceress with this video. And of course, if you like my videos, hit the sub for more upcoming infos. I'll come back with more useful infos in the next video.